Pete Carroll speaking with reporters, and they were asking him about the signing of Julian Love. And all right, well, what does that mean now? Now Jamal Adams. Oh, are they going to do something? Well, you look at his dead cap number is really punitive. It's like $23 million, $23.89 million, in fact.
You're talking about Jamal.
Yeah. So the idea, we'll cut him. Well, that's not going to be a good idea. So Pete was asked about, hey, what does this mean? Does it mean you guys are going to do something? And he's like, no, we're going to play three safeties. We're going to, what do they call that? Big nickel, I guess, or whatever. But maybe use him more in a kind of that linebacker role, sort of hybrid linebacker.
Hybrid, speaking of Paul Moore.
But, because you've got Quandre, you've got Ryan Neal, you've got Jamal, you signed Julian Love. So obviously he's not going to come out and say, well, we're thinking of making a change with Jamal. He's not going to say that. So what do you think of what he had to say?
Well, first of all, as far as the dead cap number, that's as far as we know. And again, I think Michael Giannetti does a great job at Spotrac, but I'm not entirely confident that couldn't be whittled down to something much lower. Just because
I think they do that when they restructure the deal, right?
Yeah.
But then that tends to add more years on the contract.
Right.
So
yeah. So I mean that's something they can do. But anyway, yeah, as far as those numbers, I'm always like, well, but I mean it's a general idea. Mm-hmm. And, it could be punitive, but I don't know. Jamal Adams, to me, let's just talk about him as a player. It did not work out as far as what they've traded for him. And, I mean, I think
it did the first season.
Yeah. And then, I don't know, did the receiver, I'm trying to think of who, there was an article of what they got out of that draft, and I just don't think it's close to what Jamal Adams can be. But I think fans are frustrated because, of the injuries. And so that part has not worked out, but I don't have any doubt that if that guy can stay healthy, that he is going to play his tail off. It's kind of a corny saying, but, when they say the guy plays like his hair is on fire, I mean, that really means something. It's, it's like you're putting everything out there, and everything that you have is going to show up on the field. That's how Jamal Adams plays. So I don't have any doubts about his ability whatsoever. And look, maybe he got on the jugs machine in the offseason. That's the one thing I think people thought, that he doesn't have. I mean, he had a couple of dropped interceptions, one of which was really tough. I mean, it would have been a really good catch if he'd made it. And he also had a, busted up finger and shoulder.
And
yeah, I mean, there were plays that he didn't make. I thought he could have had a knockdown at least in that playoff game if he didn't have his arm attached to his side.
Yeah.
I can imagine how, I mean, I used to wear a shoulder brace and it made it harder, but like his had it was almost like a shock collar or something. I mean, it was just ridiculous. So yeah, I don't doubt. And I think also the other thing is when this defense was really good, they had two awesome safeties, Cam Chancellor and Earl Thomas, and Bradley McDougald was good for a little while.
He was really good when he first got him.
Yeah, he was part of the trade with Jamal.
Yeah, he was very good and then he suffered that knee injury, and then he wasn't quite the same after that.
No, you're right. He did, and I remember Schneider saying, "How come nobody's making a big deal out of this Bradley McDougald guy?" And I remember thinking,
he played great.
Yeah. So I mean, and then it went downhill when he was. But when you have the core of your defense is safety for whatever reason, and maybe it's just my own little thing, but Pete was a safety, and Pete coached safeties, and I feel like when you're solid with Quandre and Jamal and this Julian Love guy, I think that it could be really good for the defense. And like you said, big nickel, there was a lot of times that that they didn't have three linebackers out there on the field. It's kind of funny because, we talked to Max Strong, we've talked to Luke Wilson, tight end, fullback. Remember for a while their tight ends were going away. Everybody was going with 10 personnel with one running back and 4 wide receivers. That's starting to come back. Tight ends are a huge deal. Fullbacks, it's like, I remember looking like half the teams in the NFL at one point had fullbacks where it used to be a mainstay. Linebacker, it's kind of going that way. It's pretty much 2 linebackers. Now, if it's a 3-4, you got the outside guy. Technically, he's kind of more like a defensive end. But what I'm talking about are the second level linebackers. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's starting to be a little bit scarce,
I'm wondering if this plays, if we're envisioning the right thing, but if they use him in kind of the way they did the first season, where he's up on the line, he's not dropping back into coverage. You saw how productive and how impactful he was. It's not like we've never seen it. There's a reason they signed him to the extension. That first year, he was electric. We were just raving every week. Do you see that play? He ran all the way from this side of the field to this side of the field. I mean, everybody was buzzing about it. So, and then the next year, I don't put that on him. I don't put the following year on him, because you could point out everybody on that defense and go, what happened to Carlos Dunlap? What happened to this guy? Why are they dropping everybody in the coverage? They take him away from the line. So that year was a wash to me. And then, obviously, the injury happened. So if they use him the way they did when he first got here, that could be huge for this team.